I brought in some books written by Charles Darwin. The Origin of Species was a wedding gift from my wife in 1978.
Right.
Her father was a book collector. He collected in the 40s and 50s. And unfortunately, he was deceased when we got married, but my mother-in-law agreed to sell the book to my wife for $200. And because I was a biologist, she gave it to me as a wedding gift.
Well, it's a very appropriate gift for a biologist.
Yes. And the other two I basically inherited when my mother-in-law died.
All right. They're great.
These books were brought to the programme as remarkable artefacts, all authored by Charles Darwin, the great English naturalist who transformed the world's understanding of life and evolution. The Origin of Species, first published in London in 1859, with only 1,250 copies, laid the foundation for the theory of evolution through natural selection. This edition, preserved in excellent condition, is not only the most important scientific work of the 19th century, but also the place where Darwin consolidated all his observations and ideas about the transformation of living beings. Its rarity, historical significance, and quality make it highly prized. At auction, it could fetch between $100,000 and $150,000, and its insurance value would be around $200,000. An extraordinary return for a wedding gift that originally cost only $200. Earlier, in The Voyage of the Beagle, published in the 1830s, Darwin recorded in detail his survey of South America as a naturalist, observing biodiversity, geology, and field experiences, where he began developing his ideas on natural selection. This volume is one part of a 4-volume set and remains in remarkably good condition, with the cloth binding well preserved, a rare feature in books of such age. The complete 4-volume set is highly valued by collectors and scholars, with an insurance value of approximately $80,000 and an expected auction range of $40,000 to $60,000. Reflecting both its historical importance and fine preservation. Finally, The Descent of Man, published in 1871 in 2 volumes, extends Darwin's evolutionary theories to humanity. While it did not initially achieve the same impact as The Origin of Species, it remains a significant scientific work. The 2-volume set is considered collectible, with an estimated insurance value of $4,000 and an auction range of $2,000 to $3,000, highlighting its continuing significance in the history of evolutionary thought. Together, these editions not only embody historical and scientific value, but also serve as tangible testaments to the development of evolutionary theory, making them treasured pieces for scholars, collectors, and anyone fascinated by the history of science.
I brought you a copy of The Hobbit that happens to be signed. This was a gift from a professor to my wife at the University of St. Thomas in Houston. I know it's a book that she treasures, mostly because of the relationship she had with the professor. She belonged to a philosophy club when she was going to college, and he was the mentor, and they had a good relationship, so...
A remarkable literary treasure was brought to the show, a first edition of The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, one of the most beloved and influential fantasy novels of the 20th century. The book, published in 1937, marks Tolkien's first introduction of the enchanting world of Middle-earth, home to hobbits, wizards, dragons, and epic adventures. This particular copy carries profound sentimental value, as it was gifted in the late 1960s by a university professor to his student, who later cherished it as a symbol of their intellectual bond and mentorship. What makes this edition extraordinary is not only its pristine condition, but also the preservation of its original first-issue dust jacket, a feature rarely found today. The jacket, displaying only minor wear along the spine, remains vivid and intact, a true testament to careful preservation over nearly a century. Most dust jackets from this era were easily torn or discarded, making such survival a rarity among collectors. Even more exceptional, this copy bears Tolkien's authentic signature on the half-title page, transforming it from a mere collectible into a historic artifact of immense literary significance. In terms of craftsmanship, the book's design and typography reflect the aesthetic simplicity of 1930s publishing, harmonizing perfectly with Tolkien's imaginative storytelling. As both an object of beauty and a vessel of mythic creation, it embodies the spirit of fantasy literature's golden age.
The estimate at auction would be $80,000 to $120,000.
Oh, fantastic. Wow.
It's one of a kind, and so the sky might be the limit for this copy.
All right.
Just absolute, you made my day, essentially.
Thank you.
I got so excited when you walked up to the table this morning with this book. Why don't you tell me about how you got it?
My dad left it to me.
And do you know how he got it?
He collects books. I don't know.
He collects books? Well, what do you know about this book?
It's signed.
That's right. Let's look at that now. This is Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, one of the most famous books in American literature. And I notice that your name is Harper. Or you're named after her, right?
Yeah.
Your parents named you after one of the greatest writers that we have here in our country.
Among the treasures that surface on Antiques Roadshow, few are as moving or culturally significant as this, a first edition of Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, one of the defining works of 20th century American literature, published in 1960 by J.B. Lippincott and Co., the novel became a symbol of moral courage and empathy, exploring issues of racial injustice and childhood innocence in the American South. This particular copy stands out not only for its first edition status, but also for its rare, hand-signed inscription from Harper Lee herself, an extraordinary feature given the author's famously private nature and her reluctance to sign books. That signature transforms the volume from a collectible into a deeply personal artifact, especially meaningful to its owner, who was named Harper in the author's honor. The book retains its original dust jacket, though the outer layer is a facsimile replacement to preserve the original beneath. Subtle wear on the spine and edges testifies to its authenticity and age. In the world of literary collecting, condition and provenance define both the value and the story a book tells.
In terms of value, and in this condition, with a little bit of wear, but with the incredible inscription, the estimate would be, at auction, $15,000 to $20,000. Did you think it would be worth anywhere near that? No? Well, you've had a pretty incredible gift and a superb book in your collection. Have you read it?
Not yet.
Now that you know how much this is worth, maybe don't read this copy, maybe read a paperback, okay? Or get one from the library.
When I was a college student, I took my very first trip to New York City, and we happened to go to the St. Regis bar, and I looked up, and in walks this gentleman with a gold-tipped cane and this huge mustache, and I just nearly fainted. I told my friends, I said, oh, there's Salvador Dali. Can you believe it? And they all looked at me and said, who's Salvador Dali? I said,
Who's Salvador?
Yeah.
Okay.
The item presented is a copy of The World of Salvador Dali, personally signed and inscribed by the legendary surrealist artist Salvador Dali. Authored by Dali expert Robert Deschamps, the book provides a comprehensive look at the life and works of Dali, from his early years in Spain and France to his eccentric period in New York during the 1950s and 1960s. This particular copy became extraordinary when Dali himself created a small drawing in its pages, depicting Don Quixote with his shield and sword, and added a whimsical reference to the Russian Sputnik, along with a personal inscription in French, Bonjour Dali, signed and crowned with his iconic motif. The provenance of this book is remarkable. The owner recounts tracking Dali daily at the St. Regis bar in New York to have him sign the book, witnessing the artist's eccentricity and charm firsthand. Beyond being a book, this volume is a unique artifact blending literature, visual art, and personal interaction with one of the 20th century's most imaginative minds. The drawing, signature, and inscription transform it into a highly collectible item, embodying Dali's surreal humor, playfulness, and artistic genius.
Now, have you ever had any thoughts about what the value of this might be?
I really haven't. This is the first time I've ever shown it to anybody,
Right.
other than just personal friends at
Right.
home and that type of thing.
I would think at auction, I'd feel pretty confident that an estimate of $10,000 to $15,000 would be
Really?
appropriate.
Oh, how
Yeah.
fabulous.
Ten years ago, my aunt gave them to me, my Aunt Julie, and she in turn got them from my Uncle Clem. They were partners in life, they weren't married. Unfortunately, 10 years ago, he passed away. My Aunt Julie and my sister Mary went to his boyhood bedroom, opened the door, and it was as if he closed the door and it was a snapshot of his life at the age of 18. So these comic books were sitting in his bookcase. So my aunt gave these to me. She knows I like to collect junk.
These two comic books, Superman #7 and Action Comics #31, are classic examples from the golden age of American comics, a vibrant period spanning the 1930s and 1940s, when superheroes became cultural icons. This was the era that introduced Superman, a character who came to embody justice, courage, and hope for generations of readers. Both titles showcase the creative energy that defined the comic book boom of the time. Action Comics marked Superman's rise as the world's first superhero, while Superman #7 continued to develop his legend, pairing bold illustrations with adventurous storytelling. The pages of these comics capture the optimism and imagination of a world seeking escape and inspiration amid global uncertainty. The exceptional condition of these editions makes them especially valuable to collectors. Their pages remain remarkably bright and clean, with only minimal spine wear, rare for books of this age. The crispness of the cover and the near-mint paper quality enhance both their aesthetic and historical significance.
I would estimate the Superman #7 conservatively at $2,500 to $4,500.
Oh my God.
And the Action 31, based on that auction record of it selling for over $8,000 in a near mint condition, I'd be conservative and maybe put this at $5,000 to $8,000. So you're looking at roughly about $7,500 to $12,000.
Well, it's a copy of Gone with the Wind that my Aunt Sue Myrick used in Hollywood when she was technical advisor on Gone with the Wind. And if you look at the edges, you'll see it's very well worn, but it was sort of her Bible. Anytime Selznick asked her a question, she went to this book to get the answer.
So your aunt is Susan Myrick,
Right.
one of two technical advisors on Gone with the Wind. The person that David O. Selznick went to create the perfect, authentic reproduction of the Old South.
The item brought to the show is a remarkable copy of Gone with the Wind, once owned and used by Susan Myrick, one of the two technical advisors for the legendary 1939 film adaptation. A close friend of author Margaret Mitchell, Myrick was personally chosen by her to ensure that the film authentically captured the spirit and setting of the Old South. This very book served as her constant reference on set. Its worn edges and folded pages bear witness to its daily use as a guiding text during production. What makes this copy truly exceptional is the personal inscription by Margaret Mitchell herself, written in 1937, to Susan Myrick, who has charm and gumption and gallantry and totes her own load. Beyond Mitchell's signature, the book is also autographed by nearly the entire cast and crew: Clark Gable, Vivian Leigh, Olivia de Havilland, Hattie McDaniel, and even George Reeves, later known as TV Superman. This artifact is not only a piece of cinematic history, but also a tangible link between literature and film. It embodies the devotion of those who brought Gone with the Wind from page to screen, ensuring its authenticity and grandeur. Despite the signs of wear, its historical and emotional value far outweighs its condition, making it a treasured relic of Hollywood's golden age.
We would put an auction estimate of $7,000 to $9,000 on this book. Yeah, much better than $500.
Yes, it sure is.
I read the book when I was in my teens and liked it very much. A friend of mine who was a book dealer found this copy and sold it to me. And I wrote to Margaret Mitchell asking her about floor plans because I was interested in architecture. And this letter came to me as a response from Margaret Mitchell in 1947.
The item presented is an authentic first edition of Gone with the Wind, published in May 1936, accompanied by its original dust jacket and a personal correspondence from the author, Margaret Mitchell. This particular copy is remarkable not only for its pristine condition, but also for the unique insight it offers into Mitchell's creative mind. When the owner, as a teenage reader fascinated by architecture, inquired about floor plans for Tara, Mitchell graciously responded in 1947, explaining that the plantation and many other elements in the novel were entirely mythical creations of her imagination. She even included a published booklet with her annotations, correcting minor details such as a sprained ankle in the text, demonstrating her meticulous care for her work. Gone with the Wind is a landmark of 20th century literature, weaving a dramatic tale of love, war, and survival in the American South. The book's narrative depth, character development, and vivid depiction of Tara and its surroundings have made it an enduring classic. Beyond its literary significance, this first edition serves as a historical artifact, a tangible connection to Mitchell herself, who engaged directly with her readers in a time when such correspondence was rare.
I think I would value your Margaret Mitchell Gone with the Wind collection, the 3 pieces, at retail at between $12,000 to $15,000.
Well, I'm delighted to know that. Unfortunately, I think I'll put it right back on my shelf again. I thank you very much.
And thank you for bringing such a wonderful...
I'm glad I brought it.
It was my great-grandfather's, and then it was passed down to my grandfather, and my father found it in his house when he passed away.
It is a copy of Mark Twain's The Innocents Abroad, one of his very popular books.
The book brought to the show was a cherished family heirloom, a 1902 edition of The Innocents Abroad by Mark Twain, one of America's most celebrated authors. Originally published in 1869, The Innocents Abroad, or The New Pilgrim's Progress, recounts Twain's humorous and insightful observations during his travels through Europe and the Holy Land. Blending satire, wit, and sharp cultural commentary, the book captures the clash between American innocence and Old World sophistication, quickly becoming one of the best-selling travel books of the 19th century. Although this copy is not a first edition, its true significance lies in the personal inscription and signature of Mark Twain himself, signed, "Truly yours, Mark Twain, April 4th, 1906. Even more remarkable, Twain included one of his trademark aphorisms: "Consider well the proportions of things. It is better to be a young June bug than an old bird of paradise." This witty remark encapsulates Twain's humor and wisdom, offering a glimpse into his playful philosophy of life. The condition of the book remains excellent, and the presence of Twain's authentic handwriting elevates it from a mere printed volume to a tangible piece of literary history.
I would put the auction estimate at $3,000 to $4,000.
That's kind of what my dad and I were thinking.
Oh, you guys had thought that already?
We just guessed.
If it was a first edition, I would probably be at $5,000 to $7,000. So the edition is important in the value, but it's not the overriding value of the book.
I think my dad will like that.
Well, I brought in a copy of my John Lennon's first edition in his own right, which he autographed for me.
Wow, so you met the Beatles?
I've met all the Beatles, yes, ma'am. I was president of one of the many fan clubs in New York City, so all of my kids gave me things to bring to John and Paul and George and Ringo. I was living their dream.
So you actually visited Beatles in their homes?
Yeah, and they invited me in. They were so gracious.
The item brought to the program is a first edition of John Lennon's book, In His Own Right, personally autographed by Lennon himself. This extraordinary copy carries a unique provenance. The owner met all four Beatles in person while serving as president of a fan club in New York City and delivered gifts to John, Paul, George, and Ringo. During one of these visits, Paul McCartney read one of John's poems from this very book into a tape recorder, creating a personal, irreplaceable memory tied directly to the book. What sets this edition apart is the bold, clean signature of John Lennon inside the cover, authenticated not only by the handwriting, but also by the accompanying photographic evidence of the encounter. Given the prevalence of forged Beatles signatures in the market, this verifiable provenance makes the book exceptionally rare and valuable. The book itself is a vibrant reflection of Lennon's playful literary voice, blending surreal humor, wordplay, and satirical commentary, providing insight into the same wit and creativity that would define his musical career.
Because you have the story to back it up, and because this is photographed and you have the provenance sealed up as tight as it could be, this book, the auction estimate would be around $3,000 to $5,000.
That is really great.
And at auction, who knows? I mean, I think people could be turned on by your story and many of the photos you have that go behind it that take it far beyond that. I mean, it's just the perfect story you could possibly hope for to have a signed piece by them.
That is cool. Thank you so much, Laura.
I brought my copy of Uncle Tom's Cabin, and I believe it's a first edition, and there's a letter from the author in it.
First of all, what you brought was a beautifully leather-bound first edition, but it's not the first American edition. And the first American is the first. It was done in 1852, but it was done in Boston originally in 2 volumes. What you have is an 1852 edition. It's the first London, the first English edition.
The object presented is a beautifully leather-bound 1852 first London edition of Uncle Tom's Cabin, one of the earliest English printings of Harriet Beecher Stowe's monumental work. While not the first American edition, which was originally published in Boston the same year in 2 volumes, this London edition holds special significance for its historical context and for the illustrations by George Cruikshank, the celebrated artist known for his collaborations with Charles Dickens. His vivid imagery brought Stowe's powerful narrative to life for British readers, further amplifying the novel's global impact. What elevates this particular copy far beyond an ordinary antique book is the handwritten letter by Harriet Beecher Stowe, dated the 14th of July 1893, affixed within its pages. Addressed tenderly to the children, Stowe writes, "You will soon be men and women, and I hope you will learn from this story always to remember and pity the poor and oppressed." This letter, written decades after the book's initial publication, captures the enduring moral vision that defines Stowe's life, her plea for compassion, justice, and humanity. The combination of the London First Edition and this deeply personal note transforms the book from a literary artifact into a vessel of empathy and historical conscience.
If you just had the book in this beautiful leather binding, 1852 London, in a bookstore, it would probably be about $1,000 to a $1,500 book. But as I said, what really makes it is that letter.
Yeah.
And the letter would bring it up to a $3,000 to $5,000, and that's a conservative retail estimate.
Wow.